Hi everyone. My video stopped a little bit abruptly yesterday as I'd run out of storage on my phone, but I'm going to try it on my laptop today. And we are on, got my Christmas card in there, we are on page 154, about 4 lines down. So we will make a start and see what happens next. It was a good story, that of yours, said Bjorn, but I like it still better now I am sure it is true. You must forgive me not taking your word. If you lived near the edge of Mirkwood, you would take the word of no one that you did not know, as well as your brother, or better. As it is, I can only say that I've hurried home as fast as I could to see that you are safe and to offer you any help that I can. I shall think more kindly of dwarfs after this. Killed the great goblin! Killed the great goblin! He chuckled fiercely to himself. What did you do with the goblin and the warg? Asked Bilbo suddenly. Come and see, said Bjorn, and they followed round the house. A goblin's head was stuck outside the gate, and a warg's skin was nailed to a tree just beyond. Bjorn was a fierce enemy. But now he was their friend, and Gandalf thought it wise to tell him their whole story and the reason for their journey, so that they could get the most help he could offer. This is what he promised to do for them. He would provide ponies for each of them and a horse for Gandalf for their journey to the forest, and he would lade them with food to last them for weeks with care, and pack so as to be as easy as possible to carry: nuts, flour, sealed jars of dried fruits, and red earthenware pots of honey, and twice-baked cakes that would keep good a long time, and on a little of which they could march far. The makings of these were his secret, but honey was in them, as in most of his foods, and they were very good to eat, though they made one thirsty. Water, he said, they would not need to carry this side of the forest, for there were streams and springs along the road. But your way through Mirkwood is dark, dangerous, and difficult, he said. Water is not easy to find there, nor food. The time is not yet come for nuts, though it may be past and gone indeed before you get to the other side. And nuts are about all that grows there fit for food. In there the wild things are dark and savage. I will provide you with skins for carrying water, and I will give you some bows and arrows. But I doubt very much whether you find in Mirkwood will be wholesome to eat or to drink. There's one stream there, I know, black and strong, which crosses the path. That you should neither drink of nor bathe in, for I have heard that it carries enchantments and a great drowsiness and forgetfulness. And in the dim shadows of that place I don't think you will shoot anything wholesome or unwholesome, without straying from the path. That you must not do for any reason. That is all the advice I could give you. Beyond the edge of the forest I cannot help you much. You must depend on your luck and your courage and the food I send with you. At the back of the forest I must ask you to send back my horse and my ponies, but I wish you all speed, and my house is open to you if ever you come back this way again. They thanked him, of course, with many bows and sweepings of their hoods, and with many an "At your service, O master of the wide wooden halls." But their spirits sank at his grave words, and they all felt that the adventure was far more dangerous than they had thought, while all the time, even if they passed all the perils of the road, the dragon was waiting for them. All the morning they were busy with preparations. Soon after midday they ate with Bourne for the last time, and after the meal they mounted the steeds he was lending them, and bidding him many farewells, they rode off through his gate at a good pace. As soon as they left his high hedges at the east of his fenced lands, they turned north and then bore to the northwest. By his advice they were no longer making for the main forest road to the south of his land. Had they followed the pass, their path would have led them down a stream from the mountains that join the great river miles south of the Curragh. At that point there was a deep ford which they might have passed if they had still had their ponies, and beyond that a track led to the skirts of the wood and to the entrance of the old forest road. But Bjorn had warned them that that way was now often used by the goblins, while the forest road itself, he had heard, was overgrown and disused at the eastern end, and led to impassable marshes where the paths had long been lost. His eastern opening had also always been far to the south of the lonely mountain, and would have left them still with a long and difficult northward march when they got to the other side. North of the Curragh, the edge of Mirkwood drew closer to the borders of the great river, and through here the mountains too drew down nearer. Bjorn advised them to take this way, for a place a few days' ride due north of the Curragh was the gate of a little-known pathway through Mirkwood that led almost straight towards the lonely mountain. The goblins, Bjorn had said, will not dare to cross the great river for 100 miles north of the Corrug, nor to come near my house. It is well protected at night, but I should ride fast, for if they make their raid soon, they will cross the river to the south and scour all the edge of the forest so as to cut you off, and wargs run swifter than ponies. Still, you are safe going north, even though you seem to be going back nearer to their strongholds, for that is what they least expect, and they will have the longer ride to catch you. Be off now, as quick as you may. That is why they were now riding in silence, galloping wherever the ground was grassy and smooth, with the mountains dark on their left, and in the distance the line of the river with its trees drawing ever closer. The sun had only just turned west when they started, and till evening it lay golden on the land about them. It was difficult to think of pursuing goblins behind, and when they put many miles between them and Bjorn's house, they began to talk and to sing again and to forget the dark forest path that lay in front. But in the evening, when the dusk came on and the peaks of the mountains glowered against the sunset, they made a camp and set a guard, and most of them slept uneasily with dreams in which there came the howl of hunting wolves and cries of goblins. Still the next morning dawned bright and fair again. There was an autumn-like mist white upon the ground, and the air was chill. But soon the sun rose red in the east, and the mist vanished, and while the shadows were still long, they were off again. So they rode now for 2 more days, and all the while they saw nothing save grass and flowers and birds and scattered trees, and occasionally small herds of red deer browsing or sitting at noon in the shade. Sometimes Bilbo saw the horns of the hart sticking up out of the long grass, and at first he thought they were the dead branches of trees. That third evening they were so eager to press on, for Bjorn had said that they should reach the forest gate early on the 4th day, that they rode still forward after dusk and into the night beneath the moon. As the light faded, Bilbo thought he saw away to the right, or to the left, the shadowy form of a great bear prowling along in the same direction. But if he dared to mention it to Gandalf, the wizard only said, "Hush, take no notice." Next day they started before dawn, though their night had been short. As soon as it was light, they could see the forest coming as it were to meet them, or waiting for them like a black and frowning wall before them. The land started to slope up, and it seemed to the Hobbit that a silence began to draw in upon them. Birds began to sing less. There were no more deers, not even rabbits were to be seen. By the afternoon they'd reached the eaves of Mirkwood, and were resting almost beneath the great overhanging boughs of its outer trees. Their trunks were huge and gnarled, their branches twisted, their leaves were dark and long. Ivy grew on them and trailed along the ground. "Well, here is Mirkwood," said Gandalf, "the greatest of the forests of the northern world. I hope you like the look of it. Now, you must send back those excellent ponies you have borrowed." The dwarfs were inclined to grumble at this, but the wizard told them they were fools. "Bjorn is not as far off as you seem to think, and you'd better keep your promises anyway, for he is a bad enemy. Mr. Baggins' eyes are sharper than yours. If you have not seen each night after dark a great bear going along with us, or sitting far off in the moon watching our camps, not only to guard you and guide you, but to keep an eye on his ponies too. Bjorn may be your friend, but he loves his animals as his children. You do not guess what kindness he has shown you in letting dwarfs ride them so far and so fast, nor what would happen to you if you tried to take them into the forest." "What about the horse then?" said Thorin. "You didn't mention sending that back." "I don't, because I'm not sending it." "What about your promise then?" "I will look after that. I'm not sending the horse back. I am riding it." Then they knew that Gandalf was going to leave them there at the very edge of Mirkwood, and they were in despair, but nothing they could say would change his mind. "Now, we had all this before, when we landed on the Corrug," he said. "It's no use arguing. I have, as I told you, some pressing business away south, and I'm already late through bothering with you people. We may meet again before all is over, and then again, of course, we may not. That depends on your luck and your courage and sense, and I'm sending Mr. Baggins with you. I have told you before that he has more about him than you guess, and you will find that out before long. So cheer up, Bilbo, and don't look so glum. Cheer up, Thorin and company. This is your expedition after all. Think of the treasure at the end, and forget the forest and the dragon at any rate until tomorrow morning." When tomorrow morning came, he still said the same, So now there was nothing left to do but to fill their water skins at a clear spring they found close to the forest gate and unpack the ponies. They distributed the packages as fairly as they could, though Bilbo thought this lot was wearisomely heavy and did not at all like the idea of trudging for miles and miles with all that on his back. "Don't you worry," said Thorin. "It will get lighter all too soon. Before long I expect we shall all wish our packs heavier when the food begins to run short." Then at last they said goodbye to their ponies and turned their heads for home. Off they trotted gaily, seeming very glad to put their tails towards the shadow of Mirkwood. As they went away, Bilbo could have sworn that a thing like a bear left the shadow on the trees and shambled off quickly after them. Now Gandalf too said farewell. Bilbo sat on the ground feeling very unhappy and wishing he was beside the wizard on his tall horse. He'd gone just inside the forest after breakfast, a very poor one, and it seemed as dark in there in the morning as at night, and very secret, a sort of watching and waiting feeling, he said to himself. "Goodbye," said Gandalf to Thorin, and goodbye to you all. Goodbye. Straight through the forest is your way now. Don't stray off the track. If you do, it is 1,000 to 1 you will never find it again and never get out of Mirkwood, and then I don't suppose I, or anyone else, will ever see you again." "Do we really have to go through?" cried the Hobbit. "Yes, you do," said the wizard. "If you want to get to the other side, you must either go through or give up your quest. And I'm not going to allow you to back out now, Mr. Baggins. I'm ashamed of you for thinking it. You have got to look after all these dwarfs for me," he laughed. "No, no," said Bilbo, "I didn't mean that. I meant, is there no way round?" "There is, if you care to go 200 miles or so out of your way north and twice that south, but you wouldn't get a safe path even then. There are no safe paths in this part of the world. Remember, you are over the edge of the world now and in for all sorts of fun wherever you go. Before you could get round Mirkwood in the north, you could be right among the slopes of the Grey Mountains, and they're simply stiff with goblins, hobgoblins, and orcs of the worst description. Before you could get round it in the south, you were getting to the land of the necromancer, and even you, Bilbo, won't need me to tell you tales of that black sorcerer. I don't advise you to go anywhere near the places overlooked by this dark tower. Stick to the forest track, keep your spirits up, hope for the best, and with a tremendous slice of luck you may come out one day and see the long marshes lying below you, and beyond them, high in the east, the lonely mountain where dear old Smaug lives,